Welcome to part 7 of the Teardown Scripting tutorial. This time we'll use multiple scripts and learn about the registry. In this episode we'll use the shooting range we did in part 5 of this series and extend that to a minigame. Let's open the scene and make a few copies so that we have 3 targets instead of just 1. Each target is controlled by a separate instance of the script, and in Teardown all scripts are completely isolated and cannot access variables or functions in other scripts. This is mostly a good thing because it makes the system very robust. An error in one script cannot affect the behavior of anything else. However, if we want to track how many targets the player has shot down, we need a counter that all scripts can read and modify. This is what the registry is used for. Think of it as a set of named global variables that are shared between all scripts. When a target breaks, we read the value of a registry entry called level.score, increment it and save the new value back to the registry. In another script, we can read the same registry entry and display it on the screen using the draw function we learned about in the previous episode. Entries in the registry are hierarchical, like a file system, and it's good practice to keep level-specific stuff under the level key, but you're free to use anything. There are a couple of reserved keys, like game for engine stuff, options for the game settings, and save game for persistent data. You can read more about them in the API documentation. Let's also add a timer to complete the minigame. In the tick function, we can increase the timer as long as the score is less than 3. To correctly increment the time, we can use the delta time, which is passed as an argument to the tick function. This is the amount of time that has passed since last frame. We truncate the value of the timer to 2 decimals and print it in the draw function. We can now try to shoot the 3 targets as fast as possible, and the resulting time is registered and presented in the end. What if we also want to store the best time and keep around between play sessions as a high score? The registry can be used for that as well. There is a special section in the registry called Save Game. All entries under the Save Game key are saved to disk and persistent, even if you restart the game. Most of the Save Game section is read-only from mods in order to protect the campaign progress, but there is a special section called savegame.mod, which is used for persistent mod data. When a score of 3 is reached, we can simply compare the high score to the current time and replace it if the current one is lower. We also need to store the time if the current high score is 0, because all registry entries default to 0 if they don't exist. Note that we have to use getFloat and setFloat, because this time we're interested in decimal numbers and not just integers. Finally, we print out the high score in the draw function, and we now have a fully functional minigame with a persistent high score. You can use the registry to save strings and booleans as well. Have a look in the API documentation for more details. Next time we'll look at triggers and different ways to query the scene from a script.